it 1 moment for everyone to come in from the waiting room.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Councillor. Good morning, everyone. This is a hearing before the Licensing Board for the City of Boston. Today is June 10th. Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to certain temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before we begin, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Thanks, Leslie. It looks like some people are still connecting, but good morning. Thank you for joining us. We're here today to have a conversation with all of you. The community that you live and work in has raised a lot of concerns regarding the delivery and consumption of alcohol on public property, including the consumption of alcohol to intoxicated consumers on public property. Simply put, you cannot deliver or consume alcohol, especially on any state property, without a special use permit. And we're joined today by State Police Lieutenant Newman, who will speak more to that in a couple of minutes. So we wanted to use this as an opportunity to have a conversation to inform you, to educate you, but also to get some feedback from you about what you're seeing going on. The same legal obligations that apply to your brick and mortar store apply to the delivery of alcohol. Before we get into the details, I want to introduce Councillor Ed Flynn, who's joined us, Commissioner Liam Curran from the Licensing Board, Lieutenant Detective Troy from the Licensed Premise Unit, Detective Hernandez from the Licensed Premise Unit, Sergeant McNeil, and as I said, Lieutenant Newman. If I've missed anyone else, my apologies. I'm just quickly taking a look at who has joined us. And before I
Commissioner.
Councilor Flaherty's joined us by phone as well. Before we get into the details of the requirements, I want to ask Councilor Flynn if he'd like to say a couple of words before we get into the details of why we're here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, Leslie, and the Licensing Board staff for excellent work, especially during the pandemic. Also want to recognize, as Michael Flaherty joined, also did Senator Nick Collins, Representative David Beal, and someone from Congressman Lynch's office as well. So I want to thank them for being here. I want to thank the Boston Police and the State Police that are also here. Over the last year, the pandemic, we've seen a huge increase in the level of drinking in this community, whether it's outside, walking around, carrying beer, drinking in public, drinking on state property, drinking on city property. Our beaches are packed, obviously, and a lot of people are calling, as you know, package stores to get alcohol delivered to, Columbia Road or Marine Road or N Street, right near the beach, where they can just run from the beach right across the boulevard, get a case of beer, and then whatever they drink, and bring it back to the beach to drink there. So I'm asking, as a district city council, that behavior for these beachgoers is unacceptable, but also there's a responsibility too from the package store owners. I'm asking you not to do that. It's hurting our community. It's causing this community to be like a party town. We're not Alston and Brighton. We're a community of families here, and this madness of delivering alcohol to public places has to stop. I'm upset about it, and I'm calling you guys out if you're doing it. I don't want to see it anymore. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Councillor.
Before we get into the regulations, Councillor Flaherty, did you want to add anything?
Concur with Councilor Flynn. Obviously, the phones are ringing on my phones, Ed's phones, Nick's phones, Dave Beal's, Congressman Lynch's. The neighborhood's had it in terms of just the quality of life has deteriorated significantly. When our police department's getting 400, 500, 600 calls over a weekend, that kind of sums it up. So we need to sort of work in partnership with one another. We recognize the value of the businesses and they're sort of a lot of our local sponsors, but really need to kind of come together here and find some solutions. So I appreciate the commissioner being on the phone as well as you, Leslie, just to sort of try to find some of the solutions here in terms of, because short of that, we have no choice but to put a moratorium on alcohol licenses, beer and wine, and or to start to take some of the ones that the existing ones back. So we're just looking for solutions that make some sense, that restore the quality of life and are respectful and responsive to the community, to the butters, to our police department, to our licensing division. So let's try to put our hats on, work in partnership, work in cooperation. Let's try to solve this problem. And I see it regularly. I look out my window and I see the beachgoers literally will call, they'll get a delivery and then they'll cross the street, load up the cooler again, and then they'll go right back across the street to M Street Beach. So I've seen enough of it, and we just got to kind of reel that in. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you, Counselor. And I believe Senator Collins, if he has not joined us, is Senator Collins' office on? Well, if he does join us, we'll also give him the opportunity. Before I turn it over to Lieutenant Newman, please utilize the chat function to identify what licensee you're representing. Please use your name, the address, and the name of the licensee. This is a mandatory hearing. All South Boston Section 15 package stores were notified of this hearing. Before I turn it over to Lieutenant Newman with the state police, I do want to read the CMR, the regulation that prohibits the delivery of alcohol to DCR property. Unless a licensee has a special use permit issued by the state, no person may consume, possess, distribute, sell, or drink alcoholic beverages on DCR property. And obviously the property we're talking about today is state property. It's the beaches along South Boston. So before we get into the requirements that are specific to the delivery of alcohol anywhere in the state of Massachusetts, I do want to turn it over to Lieutenant Newman just to emphasize that regulation.
Well, Leslie, could I just recognize David Beal is on the phone? Could I ask David to speak for a minute? Is that okay?
Absolutely, Representative.
David, you're on. David?
If he's called in by phone, he might have to do *6.
Okay. David, you have to do *6.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for the time, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Flaherty, for convening this hearing and for Chair of Licensing to be with us. Just want to reiterate what's already been said. This is turned into a quality of life issue for the neighborhood, and we need help on this. I know we're about to discuss regulations that prohibit alcohol on the beach, and we need your help to make sure that doesn't happen, so that people can enjoy their quality of life, and also that what happens on the beach is done safely. We don't encourage any kind of public drinking or intoxication, but also the risks that brings from overconsumption for their own safety, out on the water and whatnot. So it's a huge quality of life issue for residents, and we need your help to make sure that it's a safe and enjoyable summer for all. It's been a long year for all of us, and we all need to work together to make sure that that quality of life doesn't suffer in our communities. So I thank you all for being here and for your time.
Thank you, Representative. Lieutenant Newman.
Hello, Leslie. Good morning, all, and thank you. As all the councilmen have said, the task of trying to control the beach, it's gotten out of hand the last 2 years, and it's not even still the section of M Street. Has broadened all the way down Carson Beach from the bathhouse down towards the McCormick bathhouse. The amount of manpower that we've put down there over the last 2 years just to control drinking alone and trying to control the alcohol consumption has been exorbitant. And last year alone, we saw the drop off of alcohol to the beach. We tried to curtail that. Again, it's against all the DCR regulations unless you have a special use permit to even consume alcohol. But with the distribution is also against the ordinance. So we just ask, as you said, any help that we can get to curtail the drinking and to help our efforts would be very useful.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Sergeant McNeil from C6, did you want to add anything?
No, as stated, the beach is on state police jurisdiction, but we've seen incidents of disorderly conduct and public urination in the residential areas abutting the beach. So anything we can do to curtail the public drinking would be helpful.
Thank you. And the board is going to issue an advisory to all South Boston Section 15 package store license holders, outlining what the DCR restrictions are, as well as what the legal requirements for delivery to consumers. And I do just want to remind everyone that if you are delivering alcohol directly to consumers, you cannot do so on DCR property. But when you are appropriately delivering direct to consumers, you can only do so with a valid transportation permit from the ABCC. And under the law, when you deliver to those individuals, you have a legal obligation to ensure you are not delivering to someone who is intoxicated. So just as you would do if you're in your brick and mortar store, that you cannot sell to someone who's exhibiting signs of intoxication, you cannot deliver to someone exhibiting signs of intoxication. Additionally, you have a legal obligation to ensure the delivery driver, regardless of whether it's your employee or you're using a second company, such as Drizzly or something like that, you have a legal obligation to ensure that that delivery driver is identifying the individual, confirming that they're delivering to the correct individual, that that individual is over the age of 21, and that that individual signs something, it can be paper or electronic, confirming that they have accepted the delivery. These failure to do this can actually impact your annual license. It doesn't just impact your transportation permit from the ABCC, but if you do not conduct your delivery services in accordance with the law, you could risk the suspension or revocation of your actual annual license. So if there are any questions about what you need to do to engage in delivery, we're happy to have that discussion with you. But the board is now on notice. Obviously, this is something that's very seriously impacting the quality of life in South Boston that you've heard from both the state police, C6, and the elected officials. So the board is now on notice about this issue, and you're putting your actual annual license at risk if you're delivering to DCR property or if you're delivering to any other property or residents without adhering to the requirements under state law. For the licensees that are on the call today, are there any questions about the fact that you're prohibited from delivering to DCR property or what the requirements are for delivery to other locations?
Leslie, can I ask you to use the chat function and go over who's signed in? I feel like there's a lot of people missing from the call. Make sure we got everyone who did attend.
Absolutely. We have Dhahiran Patel from Rotary Liquors. We have Andy Foudis from American Provisions. We have Ms. Lamb from Andrew Square Liquors. Are there any other individuals representing retail package stores in South Boston on this call? Again, this was a mandatory hearing. So we will pull the list that we reached out to regarding this hearing, and we will be addressing the fact that there is a failure to appear on behalf of the majority of retail package store licensees in South Boston. Chairwoman Joyce, did you have any other comments before we? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor.
Yeah, Leslie, could I ask that those package stores
Leslie, I was going to say that's outrageous.
Michael, hold on for a second. Leslie, could I ask that those package store companies that are not on this call, are we able to temporarily suspend delivery of alcohol until we give them, or your office gives them, a brief on exactly what the rules are?
We are not, because that is regulated, the delivery piece is regulated by the state, but I think we can reach out to each of them directly and immediately have a conversation.
Thank you, Leslie.
And Counselor, the chairwoman raised a good question. Have you had issues in the neighborhood with delivery of alcohol from Section 12 licensees as well, or has it been limited to the Section 15? Have the restaurants with the temporary delivery of alcohol, have you seen issues with that as well?
I haven't noticed myself personally.
So I imagine people are ordering food. Some people are ordering lunch and some booze to the beach. And if that's the case, I think we should cast a wider net and also send our advisory to every restaurant in the neighborhood.
And we will we'll make sure to be inclusive of the Section 12 licensees as well. I'm sorry, Councilor Flaherty, I think you had unmuted yourself. I'm sorry.
Just had, I was jumping in just to say that's outrageous. So I appreciate the 3 stores that are on. I see Rotary, I see Andrew Square, and I see American Provision. So that's obviously duly noted, and concur with Council Flynn that the fact that the other establishments are not here, which tells me that they're part of the problem. Anything that we could do to bring them to the table, that would be great. So I find it tremendously disrespectful to the licensing board, to our local authorities, both Boston and state police, who are left having to deal with the aftermaths of drunken behavior, and obviously the elected officials on behalf of the community. So that's a big slight, and I agree with.
Thank you, Councilor. We will reach out. Not only will we put out the advisory, but we will be addressing the failure to appear with each of the Section 15 licensees who are not on the call and who have not entered their information into the chat. And I will say one more time, is there anyone else who has not identified themselves, who's a licensee with a retail package store in South Boston, who has joined the call?
There are some attorneys here. I don't know if they're here representing their clients, but no one's spoken up, so. All right, I don't want to take up anyone else's time. We're all very busy. Lieutenant Newman, thank you for joining us from Worcester before a funeral. To my licensed premise unit, who are out every single day, to the commissioners, to the counselors, we are all very busy. This board, another board I was on yesterday, sat for 4.5 hours on a hearing. This is the last thing I want to do on a Thursday morning, but we did this immediately. We take it very seriously, and we will continue to take this very seriously.
Thank you all very much. We'll be
Thank
following
you.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you.